Duplicity is the latest Tyler Perry film. It's currently streaming on Prime, Amazon. I believe it was number one, at least its first week, may still be number one. Of course, Tyler Perry films tend to do well with streaming, and they did well when they were in the theaters mostly. Tyler has a strong core audience. And I would have to believe that his core audience will love this film. It has its entertainment value. And look, Tyler Perry films aren't for everyone. His dialogue can be, for some, I guess you would describe it as at times kind of like a soap opera kind of dialogue. It's very much in your face, which is fine. That's his style. And here's the thing. When I'm reviewing films on this particular channel, I'll say, initially when I would review films, I would give it a rating or things like that. But that's not really where I want to go with my, I guess you could call it review of films. But really, it's more of a discussion of film that I want to do on this channel. I'm not here to say whether Tyler should have lit a certain scene this way or whether he should have used this particular type of set, etc. I'm just here to discuss the actual story he presented to us. And I kind of got this idea from actually listening to an interview with an actress who asked the interviewer his opinion on how a writer wrote a particular episode. And this interviewer was saying, hey, look, I'm not here to question why a writer wrote something the way he did. I'm just here to appreciate the art that they presented. And that's in essence how I'm going to approach my just overall discussion of film. Maybe I can't, I won't speak in absolutes. I won't ever say I'll ever give my opinion on whether I like the film or not. But for the most part, I just want to stick to what is presented and just talk about that particular story. So with Duplicity, when you look up the word duplicity, it speaks on deception. So we know that this particular film is going to deal with deception. And Tyler Perry actually did an interview with Good Morning America, and he started the interview with stating that he was kind of inspired to, I guess, write this particular thriller, this particular film, just based off of, I guess, getting tired of people taking advantage of certain movements in this country. So we'll get to that here shortly. But this film, it stars Kat Graham as the lead character of Marley. She's an attorney. Her best friend is Fila, played by Megan Tandy. Her boyfriend is Tony, played by Tyler Lepley. And then you have Ron Rico, who plays Kevin, a police officer. And you have Jimmy Stanton, who also plays a police officer, Caleb. So keep that in mind. You have police officers. And look, when the story first started, I really just kind of looked at it as a typical beginning where you have friends hanging out. I guess you kind of establish the relationship. So that's where we learn, okay, this is Marley and Tony are together. But then Kevin was kind of showing some interest in Fila, but, Fila was married and she made that very clear in the beginning. So, that kind of established something. Then later on down the line, Kevin and I guess a rookie he was training, Caleb, they were called to a home because they were told that there was a potential suspect who may be robbing a home because a woman was given a call by a mystery woman. So a white woman was given a call and told, hey, there's a black man in your neighborhood who's acting suspicious. And so that's how Kevin and his a rookie partner, I guess you could say, or a rookie he was training, showed up on the scene. And the guy happened to be Rodney, who was Fila's husband. And he had his headphones on, so he didn't really quite I guess, hear what was happening, but, he came up on these police officers. They were telling him to put his device down or, what typical things that a cop says, but he didn't hear them. But then he starts to pull out something. And quite frankly, the way it was shot, it did look like it could have been a weapon, but it was ultimately his cell phone. But in the scene, the cops thought it was a weapon, end up shooting him, and that begins the mystery of why this happened, etc. And of course, it's tragic. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, okay, Tyler, we're doing a film on what has been happening a lot in this country, which is the unaliving of Black men by cops. So I was like, okay, we're doing that kind of discussion, if you will. And I was like, well, what's going to be the mystery? It was clear who shot Rodney, and it was Caleb, the white rookie police officer. But down the line, I put it in the title. This is a spoiler. But down the line, we realized that's not quite what technically, I guess, happened. I mean, he did shoot him, but why and how, I guess, is what Tyler was trying to get at. Like, was it a setup, etc.? And we later learn that it in fact was. Marley, as a lawyer, uncovered this. She had many questions, and of course, as a viewer, you're questioning her best friend who was married to Rodney. You're questioning her boyfriend, Tony, who apparently knew certain things about Rodney, like Rodney may have been cheating on Fila and all these different things. And, I don't want to get too crazy in terms of all of the plot twists and etc. But Marley ends up figuring things out, or at least being told about what may have really happened when it comes to Rodney, Fila's husband, her best friend's husband, who she knew and cared about. I mean, they were all distraught regarding his unaliving. So Caleb, obviously the white cop, he was accused. I mean, he is the one that pulled the trigger, but he was on the run. Somehow he gets a hold of Marley and pretty much tries to convince her to help him to prove that, look, I didn't, this wasn't malicious. I didn't mean to shoot him. This was a setup. And once he got a hold of her in a van, she met his wife and another young woman who happens to be white. The wife to Caleb is a Black woman. So again, that created the discussion of, is Caleb really a racist cop shooting a Black man? He has a Black wife. Now, look, I'm of the thought that just because you're married to a Black person doesn't necessarily mean you don't have some certain prejudices. But in this case, the argument was made that he's not racist, he's not prejudiced, he has a Black wife, and he didn't shoot Rodney because he's a Black man. That was the argument that was made. And then the other woman that was there, a white woman, she was having an affair, I believe, with Rodney, but also with Kevin. So there was a whole possible love triangle there. But then she also said Kevin said a lot of things about Marley, and it's very interesting dynamics there. But again, you can watch the film to see that for yourself. But ultimately, that girl tells Marley that she has proof that Kevin is a horrible person. He has a good side, but then he has an evil side, which I guess can go into the duplicity. But so she said, I have proof, because apparently she recorded a conversation with them, and she left it at his home in his bathroom. And that pulls Marley to his home, which happens to be a mansion, which is like, how does a cop afford this mansion? So that was already a cue that, okay, he's probably involved in some kind of funny side hustle business. But when she gets there, her boyfriend, Tony, who she was already kind of iffy about because apparently he knew about Rodney's affairs and didn't tell her about it, etc. So they were already kind of iffy with their relationship. But they meet up. He's coming off like he's on her side. But once they actually see Kevin outside of his home and he insists that they come in, Marley immediately goes to the bathroom and tries to find the evidence that the girl told her about. But once she comes out of the bathroom, she realizes Kevin and Tony, her man, are, again, duplicity, have been deceitful towards her and are actually the villains. And they end up drugging her and taking her to a boat. And then from there, she learns of another betrayal, which is her best friend is on the boat. And she's also in on all the evil dealings that Kevin, Tony, and all them were doing. And she learns that they, in essence, were involved in the unaliving of Fila's husband. But ultimately, I mean, Marley's the main character. You know, they do certain things. They push her into the lake. There was a guy who tried to help save her, I guess a security officer, but they unalived him. Then they end up pushing her in the lake. Somehow she's like Houdini and gets out of the lake and gets back on the boat and pretty much unalives all three of them with a flare. And then ultimately goes to the press in the media and reveals what happened. Caleb is cleared of everything, which I have to admit, I don't know in real life if he would have been cleared of everything because he still did unalive someone. He at least may have still had some type of negligence. I don't know. But he was cleared. You know, that's the story. And that's pretty much it. These people did some deceptive things and used a movement, which is what Tyler said. He was tired of people taking advantage of a movement. These people took advantage of a movement, which is the unaliving of black men and Black Lives Matter, etc. They took advantage of that, and just so that they could ultimately maybe gain some monies in terms of settlement. And so that was what I guess the motive is, to try to get some money out of this particular tragedy. And, you know, some reviewers I've listened to had issues with that. They didn't feel that Tyler should use this serious movement of Black Lives Matter and use it in this way when it comes to this story. I look at it as, you know, Tyler's not completely wrong. I mean, actually, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, there were stories of people possibly taking advantage of that movement, not per se in this way, where they actually maybe caused or created the atmosphere for a black man to be unalived. But, I mean, let's be real. There are figures who do become enriched from certain movements, but I guess Tyler wanted to put a little twist to it with this film. But that's in essence Duplicity. Let me know if you watched it. Let me know your thoughts on it. How did you feel about the twist using the Black Lives Matter movement and to a certain degree, even though that wasn't said per se in the movie, but just the unaliving of a black man by a cop, using that particular movement, and then having people use it for their own financial gain, and, you know, just using a tragedy and for their own financial gain. How did you feel about that particular choice that Tyler Perry made in this film? Be sure to leave your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share. I'm Stacey Brewer, and this has been The Real Talk. Peace.